mai, hoki mai, and welcome to another episode of our Mind to Māori podcast with Tahi Springs of Tau Māori me Tahi. Thanks to our awesome sponsors BC More and Number One Electrical for bringing you this episode. How much pressure was there in those early days of moko to get it right? Because I know, I'm always been an electrician and always been a perfectionist, and if I get something wrong, I turn the switch on, the light doesn't come on, I can go and find out what's wrong. I think it's there, it's in the skin, and I know you're a perfectionist. So how hard was that for you to get into moko and just have that faith in yourself to do it to the beautiful moko that we see today that you're producing?
Yeah, it's again sort of getting back to that uncomfortable feeling, the unsureness yourself, knowing that, you're looking for those little sparks of light to say, this is the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And in the early days, we were going around talking to our people. We were having wānanga, different rohe, different ideas, different stories, different, tikanga behind it. There were fragments of like a jigsaw puzzle. Mm. And those of us that sort of, dedicated ourselves to pushing through, because it wasn't always like, in support of what we were doing. We also had our fair share of our own people going, who the hell do you think you fellas are? Yeah. Leave that thing alone, So, we had to sort of like, discuss amongst ourselves all those different types of issues. Is it the right thing to do? Is now the right time to do it? And, are we the right ones to do it? All of that sort of stuff. Once we kind of like, realized that, okay, this is what we want to do and this is what we, are going to be doing. Then we needed to find our path. And, and as I said, each one of the practitioners, went about their own wānanga and they developed their skills, they developed their tikanga, they developed their kawa around their mahi. And, it's an ongoing, evolving thing as art is, it never ever stays stagnant. And that's the beautiful thing about what we're doing as artists, is that it's continuously evolving, and we have to evolve with it. Now that it's out, we can't contain it, back into a box. So we have to, in some ways, if it's the right word, be gatekeepers, I guess, for this mahi. And that responsibility of getting it right, I still feel now, Yeah. Once you cut somebody's skin, that's it. You can't rub it out. You can't go back on it. So, I always remember a beautiful kōrero that I had with my grandmother, because, we were talking about reo one day, and, I was concerned that I didn't have the reo, and she said, you know what? Besides all of that, whether you have the reo or you don't, it's your intention behind what you're doing matters more. If you understand what your intention is, then the way forward will show itself, But you gotta be strong enough to believe in it. And if you don't believe in it, that's when you have problems. Yeah. So it's again getting back to backing yourself, man. No matter what. Yeah. Somebody else might say, what the hell are you doing? Kūware tō mahi. Your mahi is useless, Your method is useless. But you got to back yourself. You're not everyone is going to agree with what you do. But if your intention is pure, then haere tonu, kia kaha koe. And I've always sort of believed that in myself and used that in my own mahi, that, right, okay, I haven't got all the answers, but I ain't going to stop. I'm doing this not for myself, not to benefit myself. I'm doing the picture is a lot bigger than that. It's like the history about the house at Auckland University. There's a whole history to it. And so is the mahi that we do as Māori artists. There is whakapapa to it. There's a tikanga to it. There's a kawa to it. there are lots of things riding on your shoulders to carry that mahi. And at times it can be heavy, but for the most, it's exhilarating. And that's why we continue to do it, you know. And I think, you know, when I look at the caliber of artists that are out there doing this type of mahi these days, man, you know, I'm humbled by it, you know. You know, there are artists out there who I admire who have, you know, 5-6 years under their belt, you know, who I consider to be technically way better, aesthetically way better than the work that I do. But that's because I'm a perfectionist. I'm my own worst critic. And I always think too, the day you start believing your own bullshit, it's over, mate. You know, I'm always looking to be inspired by other artists. You know, I'm not just looking at my own stuff and thinking, oh, well, you know, I got it now. I'm at the top of the hill. I don't have to, you know, do any more. But I'm constantly in a state of learning. So every day is a learning day. There's another good saying from another good rangatira role model of mine, or Mitamohi. He used to say every day is a learning day. And he's right, you know.
That's awesome. And the puhoro, you know, I know now that that's one of your main lines of mahi. And having been through that journey myself recently, or a year ago now, I didn't realize the healing process of it, how deep you learn yourself through that process, and how deeply you need to go within yourself, and these new levels of yourself that come to the surface, and the trust in the people around you to guide you through that journey is second to none. And I talk to a lot of people, and they don't realize the rongoā of the puhoro. So what's your take on that, and what's your biggest driver that keeps you going on that puhoro?
You know, for me, moko in general is a rongoā. It's a healing, you know, and it's an ancient healing. Which is why there's so many things connected to it, you know. There's lots of different recipes. You just got to find the right mix, you know. Rongoā is a funny thing, you know. Like if you pick a berry at a certain time of the year, it'll kill you. You know, you pick it at another season, you know, a few months down the track, it's perfectly fine to eat, you know. You have to know these things to understand the significance of this art form, you know. Listening is probably the biggest part of that first step to understanding what kind of moko will begin to appear for this particular individual. So listening to somebody. See, I've always had problems with that because I hate listening, you know. But what this mahi has taught me is to listen. So when somebody is sitting in front of you, you need to pay attention to them, especially when it comes to moko, about who they are, where they come from, what they're about, how they're connected, you know, who's their rangatira, who's their marae, who's their mountains, their rivers, so on and so on. It's huge. If you miss one of those things, it's like a part of the puzzle will be missing, you know. And so for me, you know, as an artist, and I know that, you know, I can only speak for myself, but I know this is very similar amongst our fraternity, that we get such a diverse amount of people come and sit with us. Some people are really onto it. Some have emotional problems. Some don't even know who their waka is. There's all different types of people. You know, some are professionals. Some are just the cousins across the road. There's all these different types of humans that come and sit and share information. And just like those opportunities, you know, those little rays of light that you look for, you're kind of listening for their light. And once you find a connection with that aesthetically, it's just about placing those designs on the body appropriately and then relaying that information back to them so that they have also signposts. So once the mahi is done, they are reminded of certain things that we pinpointed during the creating of that moko for them. And that acts as like a Panadol, you know, like a kawa tea, you know, it continues to feed rongoā back into them and strengthen and guide and protect all those things that all of us want, you know. We all want to be accepted. We all want to be guided. We all want to be held. We all want to be supported, you know. And moko gives you all of that. Better to ask, what doesn't the moko represent? You know, to me, it represents everything. A weaver will say the whatu represents the universe. You know, a waka builder will say, hey, the journey of being a part of the kaupapa of waka represents the universe. And likewise with us practitioners as whakairo, as kaitā, you know, it means everything to us. And we can have these opportunities to help support, to help guide, to help enlighten people that come and sit before us. It's a very it's a very special thing to be a part of, you know, and know too that, you know, long after I'm gone, those lines, those whakairo, those artworks will still be here, the kohatu and stuff like that. They'll still be here helping those people, and even more so be passed down through generations, you know, and that kōrero will continue. The history, the background of where and how Tahi got his pūhoro. Those stories will be told through your son, through your sons, your daughter, and so on and so on. Chances are, you know, TJ will probably take his pūhoro. He wouldn't have done that had you not gone through that process. Yeah. And it will be healing like it was for you, for him as well, in a different way. So each person is really, really different. And the power of the moko will find that cause root, allow that person to sort of, if it's trauma, it, you know, for me, I think what moko does, it allows it to have a place, you know, because trauma can rotate around the mind, around the body, and it manifests this way in many different ways. Sometimes anger, sometimes weight, sometimes anxieties, depression, all those types of things. It can just rotate around the body, you know, it circulates around the body. When somebody is receiving moko, there's a certain amount of pain, as you know, that goes along with it. And now, again, it gets back to kind of that uncomfortable space. Now, when you take somebody through a pūhoro, you're not just taking them for one day. In your case, I think it was 6. You know, 6 days of intense tattooing, covering large pieces of skin. So when you're in such an uncomfortable space and you have to remain a certain way, which is calm, it allows the mind to tick over and go through certain things that may have been building up, historical stuff, you know, trauma, losses, you know, losing whānau members, all those types of things, many types of things. The brain can tick over because you've got that time. You've got to be distracted and not focus on the pain. So your mind goes through those things bit by bit, each day. And slowly, if you tune into that, you're not thinking about the pain anymore. And we're able as the practitioners to excel in terms of the speed that we go at and the detailing that comes out of that, rather than if you were fighting it and not focused on why you're wanting it, then, you know, we have to slow down. You know, it becomes a lot more traumatic. The energy in the room will change. So, you know, and we will try and sort of get you back into a state of calm in order for us to move on. I always kind of liken it to a waka. You know, when the person is finding it hard to focus, it's usually because of hit a bit of rough seas, But like most storms, they'll come hard and then they're gone. So if we can just kind of get your mind thinking in the same way that, yep, we're in this tight spot at the moment, but it ain't going to last.
Yeah.
And then we can move on. So what we're doing is we're actually taking a person and we're putting them into this really, really uncomfortable situation, and we're pushing them to their limits. And they're thinking to themselves, I want to stop, cup of tea, got to go for a piss, or when's lunch, or need to pick the kids up. They don't even have kids. We've heard all the excuses. But once we can get them past that and focused on what they need to focus, it's smooth sailing, man. And then the learning really starts to excel. Yeah. Because now you're controlling the situation, not the situation controlling you. And you're in control, and you've been pushed beyond your own limits. And when you are being pushed that hard, what makes it easier is the people around you. That could be your mother, that could be your father, that could be your whānau, that could be. In my case, I work with a very small crew, all of whom have been through the same process. There's nobody in that room that hasn't got it or received it. And, not everybody agrees with the way that I work, but I find for me, I can better focus myself on the person rather than the multitudes of people that sometimes happen. I've done it that way. It's been successful, but I'm always looking to sharpen the blade, a quicker way, to be able to sort of give whoever I'm tattooing the very best that we can. It's like preparing the very best rongoā. There's, millions of kawa trees. People will just go and pick any leaves if they don't know what they're looking for. Kyle, there's certain leaves. The first rays of sunlight to hit those leaves, those are the ones that are drawing all the energy into those leaves. With the not the flash leaves, it's the holy leaves, Those are the ones, the big ones, And you pick those ones, and you pick from the same tree, not multiple bloody trees. You know what I mean? So you just try and, prepare the very, very best situation for your clients. So no matter what happens, even if we hit the storm and we hit some low points, we can pull them out. And that moment is where we start to build our trust between one another. That I can do this, that I do whatever these guys are telling me. I can trust. They're not talking shit. They're not trying to pull the blanket over my eyes, or they're not talking about me when I'm, in a awkward predicament, because we do go into places where it's very private to that person. So, we do everything that we can to try and respect your space so that it's a safe space, a respectful space, a tapu space. And that's why I don't like having a lot of people around when we're doing these things, because I want this person to feel safe, And if I can provide that situation for them, then we have a better chance of having a smooth sail. When we get out, we retrieve that design and bring them home safe. Better, because we've got to break you down first. And you think to yourself, shit, I don't know if I can do this another bloody day. What day are we at? Each day is like a month. You know what I mean? So, these days are really long in terms of what's going on in your mind. But if we can eliminate all the outer sort of sound and noise, and just focus in on one another, and that we've got this kaupapa, we can get out and we can get back real safe.
Definitely. And I know from experience, when you're in those hard times and you look down and you see the bro's got the same on his knees, on his legs, or wherever you can see at the time, it just gives you that courage to keep going and know that the people around you know where you are, they understand what you're going through, and they're there to hold you and keep you safe. And I obviously will never go through the process in any other way, but I'm grateful for the way that you do it, because I, felt really safe. And like you say, we're dealing with trauma or, past events that may have happened to you that you're processing in that space. And a lot of the time, the biggest thing you're looking for is to feel safe, and you and the boys just, do an amazing job. Ivanka, Tu Manako, having them around is to look forward to, but be worried about Tu Manako coming in from school. Look forward to him because he was a breath of fresh air, but worry that when he comes in and tries to give you a fright, wondering where your gun might be at the time in case it slipped.
I mean, like the humor is really important too, because, it can get deep, It can get deep with the responsibility of what we're doing and where we're going. And so humor, I think, is really an important part of that recipe. Keeping it light when it needs to be. Because, Uncle Gordon can get, he can get tough when he needs to. And if if we're having a situation where our recipients aren't responding well, then I put another cap on, and that's necessary. And sometimes, I have a very unique way of communicating when I'm in that environment. And sometimes it's not conducive to having kids and nannies and, and so that space there is kind of reserved to allow us to be able to crack the whip when it needs to be cracked and then pull off, enjoy the journey together and have a bit of a laugh, we open our whare to our recipients, which is a big thing, and we do that so that we can control that environment, that we can control what's coming in, what's going out, who's there. I trust my crew 150%, so I know that, these guys, and even my daughter as well, I know that when they're not just there on the sidelines, they're actually part of the process, even to Manako, that little ray of youth that comes in and it sort of says some profound things from time to time or some funny things or whatever. That's all a part of that recipe, Some things that my nephew Ian says, quite profound. And then other times he'll come in with a little bit of a joke or a little bit of a yarn and stuff like that at appropriate times, Same thing with Ivanka and all the rest of the crew. We all have our little speciality things that we offer the recipe, So it's not just my own recipe. It's them contributing their mix into that āhuatanga as well, into that wānanga. And it's given openly. Yeah. There's nothing left behind. At the end of these wānanga, sometimes I need a couple of days to sort of recoup because it's just kind of sort of, I've left everything that I could possibly do on the table with that person, and that's the way it should be. When you do a puhoro, when you give something like that, it should not be perceived as like an armband or a chest piece or a back piece. This is a 6-day, sometimes 7-day ordeal. So you got to tack a different way. You got to see it as an opportunity to really push yourself, push your crew, push the recipient, in order for the mahi to elevate and empower our people. It's all about empowering our people in terms of identity, spirituality, everything that's connected with that person. Nothing negative. Nothing. Any negativity, we throw that thing off the side on our way out and on our way back, Nothing negative can get in there and affect our kaupapa. Because it's not about the personalities, it's about the kaupapa. And if you can separate yourself, I don't get on with all the guys that come through my wānanga, we just don't, it's a fact. But, so therefore the kaupapa, it's about doing the very best job I can for this person, I don't have to agree with them and they don't have to agree with me, but I ain't going to do a second-hand job for them because I don't like them, No. If they've committed to a pūhoro, then I commit 150%, whether I get on with them or not. Yeah. But that's a big kaupapa for our whānau to carry because we carry it together, not just myself.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's awesome. We're getting a bit close to time, but there was just one thing I wanted to capture from you was, you've been through adversity as well. It hasn't, life hasn't always been plain sailing. And what can you share about that and how you've overcome some of that can help some of the listeners today, on their journey?
Yeah, you get a bit of a profile out there, and people kind of think that you're some kind of like untouchable kind of a entity. But no. I mean, I've had my fair share of spills and thrills. I think one of the main things is that's kept me going is definitely my family, my children, my wife. My extended family, where I come from, knowing where I come from, knowing that history. That's always been, it's always in the forefront of my mind when I'm doing anything Māori or anything in general, really. Is my family. My family is number one. So, I a couple of years ago now, I maybe 6 years ago, I had a bad motorbike accident and lost my leg. And I thought, well, if there's any time to clip the ticket and get out, it's now. But for some unforeseen reason, I lived, I survived it, And so, you sort of have this, you have this kind of sort of you're kind of sort of stuck in limbo there for a few years, trying to figure out, why didn't I go? I could have gone then, but here I am, I'm still here. And so it gets to a kind of for me personally, I just got to a point where I thought, fuck it, man, if I'm here, it's for a good reason, I might get to see I've just been up to Auckland to see my latest grandson. And if I had died, I wouldn't have seen that, If I had gone at the time of my accident, I wouldn't be with my son Tūmanako, I wouldn't be down here in Te Waipounamu. There's all these things that have, eventuated, after that accident that have given me more purpose for life to carry on, And I still struggle with a lot of pain and stuff like that. But because of my family, I can accept it, if this is what I have to accept, so be it, man. And it's just like what we talked about earlier on. Don't fucking give in, don't give in. Yeah. Even my son, Tūmanako, he says, oh, Papa, you're like a superhero because you can't be killed. And, I'm starting to believe it too, because, that bike accident wasn't my first accident. I've survived a few of them over the years, but, but the thing is, you come out of it, and through that shit or whatever it is that you've been through, there is light, man, and you just got to hold on to it. You got to find those sparks of light to keep you going. And if you can't, fucking create it. Create your own light. Don't rely on others to create your light.
Because if someone else creates it for you, they can take it.
That's away. Right, man. They can put it out as fast as they give it. And we live in such a false world these days, social media and everybody blowing wind up your ass. The reality of everybody's situation is so different. You got to back yourself, and you got to believe in yourself. And if you can't find light, you create it. You can create it. You start fire by rubbing two pieces of wood together, cracking a stone against another stone, and boom, you got fire. This is This is nothing new. I'm not creating anything new, but I'm just reminding myself of my light. That my light has purpose. I don't care what anybody else says about it, but for some reason, my life has purpose. And whether that be my family or my work or all of it, sweet as, I'll ride it to the very end, you know.
Beautiful. Well, do you have it whānau? Be your own light. Create your own light. Don't wait for anyone else. Thanks, bro, for coming along today. It's been bloody awesome. And I look forward to watching more of these beautiful creations that go up on your social media. House of Natives, TOI Native on Instagram. Kia ora.
Tēnā koe, bro.
Nō reira, ko motu tēnei kōrero o tēnei wā. This concludes another kōrero for this time. Visit our website taumaurimetahi.com or click on the link in the show notes to sign up to our next free bi-monthly webinar. And don't forget to follow Tau Mauri Me Tahi on Instagram and Facebook to stay up to date with all the exciting offers we have coming your way. Noho ora mai.